Welcome to our keynote discussion today. It's so awesome to be back here at TRA again, once again here in Houston. It's such a pleasure to be able to talk to these folks today. We have Chef Anita Jaisinghani and Chef Chris Shepard. Welcome. Thank you. So after we get done talking today, we'll definitely have a chance for you guys to just ask some questions, so definitely keep that to the end. We'll make sure you guys have plenty of time. So today we're going to be talking about the idea of community in reference to the culinary scene. It takes various shapes and forms depending on the space and time. So, like you mentioned, it's a great pleasure to introduce these two folks. Chef Anita Jaisinghani is the chef and owner of Pondicheri here in Houston, as well as in New York. She's a 3-time James Beard semifinalist for the Southwest region in 2012, 2017, and 2018. Chef Chris Shepard is the chef and owner of Underbelly Hospitality, which includes UB Preserve, Georgia James, 1/5, and Hey Merchant. He's also the founder of Southern Smoke Foundation. He won a James Beard in 2014, and then this year he was nominated for Best Outstanding Chef. I could go on and on about all these acknowledgments and awards that these folks have won, but we want to go ahead and get started because we have a lot to talk about today. Chef Jaisinghani, if you would like to share a little bit about your culinary journey, it had an interesting start in microbiology.
I did. Can you all hear me? Yes? Okay. Can you hear me, everybody? Yes? Okay. I did.
Yeah.
I started in microbiology back in Canada, and then I moved on to food where I wanted to be, so...
Well, you want to talk a little bit more as far as like all the restaurants you open, like Indica?
Yeah. I opened Indica in 2001, and that was my first kind of wild venture, and it was exciting. And fast forward 18 years now. That was in 2001. So Pondicheri in 2011, New York in 2016. And the Bake Lab in between that, about 2013, we opened the Bake Lab. So.
And then we'll talk a little bit about your expanding into products after this.
Yeah.
But Chef Shepard, would you like to talk a little bit about why you think your food and your career has drawn so much attention?
I mean, that's a really, exactly what?
So you've received a lot of press and acknowledgments over the years, and I just, what makes your food kind of stand out?
It goes back to Houston, and really stating in who we are as a city and showing and highlighting our diversity and just the amount of product that we have in this area. It's really simple when you start doing the math. I mean, because this region is so amazing. This city is so amazing. So it all goes back to just showing who we are as Houstonians.
Awesome. So today, like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about community, and I feel like there's a couple ways to talk about it. So when you are thinking about community, what about it does it kind of mean to you? Like, what does that term mean to you personally?
A community goes in multiple areas, right? You talk about like what I just said about our city and who we are as Houstonians, and showing and celebrating the cultures and what we have, but it also goes back to our staff and having a good community in our restaurants is front of the house, back of the house, everywhere, valets, it doesn't matter. Having that strong community, and then also having, because there's a lot of them here, communities like service with your vendors, and just being nice is what it all goes down to.
100%. And you?
Okay, so for me, community is much more than that.
Yeah.
It is everything. It is the air that I breathe. It is the earth that I walk on. Mm-hmm. It is the animals that live on this earth. It is the people that work for me, and the people that cook with me, and the people that I feed. That's my community.
Well, we'll break that down a little bit more. So when you're thinking about community within the walls of your restaurant, what do you do to create that kind of level of community and harmony within your restaurants?
I mean, like Chris said, just be nice and treat people with kindness. And that's kind of my one management mantra, like treat people like you want to be treated. And that's one way you can ensure people will be the way they should be, And in the end, if my staff isn't happy, then my food isn't going to taste good. Food isn't going to taste good. My customers aren't going to like it. So it's really important that they love what they do. And that's my goal, is to always inspire them. Like, if you can make it better, why wouldn't you do that? So it's always about do the best you can. So,
And Chris?
It's the same thing. Like having having 4 restaurants now and bouncing back and forth throughout each one of them, not being at one all the time. It's still making sure that I say hello to every single person and then I say goodbye to every single one of them as I'm leaving too. And so that they know at any given time if they have an issue, like door open, let's go, let's sit down and talk. And it's always like you can see it in people's eyes when something's wrong, you know. And it's like, you good? You got a minute? Let's talk about this. And making sure that they feel wanted, respected, and loved.
That's great. That's wonderful. And I've heard oftentimes that chefs do these activities and some kind of like team building exercises during meetings and things like that to kind of help create that level of community. Is there anything like that you guys do within your staff meetings?
I mean, a lot of, like, in pre-service, a lot of the staff we ask them to come forward with, like, their hobbies. Like, what do you do on your spare time? And they talk about it, and they get other staff members involved in the same things. Like, if it's just a run club or going and talking, and, like, they always, the greatest thing is, like, Sunday morning at Preserve is seeing the Georgia James front and back of the house all coming in and having brunch together. Like, it's really, UB Preserve on Sunday brunch is like the Georgia James hangout. And it's more than that. It's like wine on the line and making sure the cooks also understand wine service. Talk about wine with them. Teach them wine, because if we can cook and, you know, it's a symbiotic relationship. There's no front house. There's no back of the house. There's only one house.
I love it. I love it. So when you guys are opening new locations, what do you keep in mind as far as creating community within those spaces?
I mean, creating a place that's happy, for me, that's really important. And I feel like when people go through my restaurants or through my life, I want them to leave as better people. And that could just be, you know, in Houston, we do have our, you know, we are open 7 days a week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it's really hard to get everybody together at one time. So it's usually like, okay, let's have this get together with all my servers one day. Sometimes it's going to be with some other group. So we just break it up into small groups and get people together. But I'm always talking about what is the point of having the restaurant? Like, why are we here? Why are we doing what we are doing? And that goes into like much deeper subjects, like what is the environment about? And I'm always putting stuff. We have this communication channel called Slack, through how we all communicate, and I'm always posting stuff about things on there and getting them to just think a little past, like, I'm here to earn a buck and I'm here to go home and get drunk and come back and do it all over again tomorrow. And I'm like, come on, you can do more than that, you know, so.
Sure. And did you do anything differently when you opened up the restaurant in New York?
Sorry?
Did you do anything differently as far as that?
I mean, opening in New York was like opening in Mars, maybe worse. So yeah, I did a lot of things differently because I just had so many hurdles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like jumping into this like big pot or big cauldron, and then I had to swim my way out of that with sharks and, you know, snakes around me. That's how I felt. But I'm still here, so.
Well, I'm glad things are going better.
Yeah.
There, so that's great. So how have you adjusted, or what creative solutions did you guys kind of come up with to kind of help with like community in regards to staffing shortages or any kind of major change, like changing concepts, for instance? What have you done to kind of help with that?
We're very fortunate. We've built a team that is always revolving, and not revolving, but always evolving. We don't have the revolving door, right? Most of our staff has been with us for a long time. I mean, my butcher's been with me 21 years. And a lot of cooks and a lot of the front of the house staff are all like that. You know, having 10-year veterans with us is very normal. It's just giving them a safe home and a happy home and a place that we're very vocal about. You shouldn't want to not go to work, right? We want you to be happy and enjoy what you're doing, and we instill a tool in most people that you, at a food show, you can't find, and it's called give a shit. And that's the tool. If everybody has that, then products are better, and service is better, and it's a lot smoother, and you can't buy it. It's an intangible that you have to own. But you can pull it out of your knife roll, You can pull it out of your waiter apron, but you always have it with you. And so that's, if you care, and they know that we care, and they know that I care personally, that's just, it builds a better family and a better team.
Well, it's obvious you guys both really care about your employees. That's awesome. So looking outside of your restaurant, how would you feel, like, or I guess how would you describe the Houston food scene? Why is it different than any other scene, and what, and how has it evolved?
Diversity. It's such a diverse city, and there's just all kinds of cultures, and I think that's the main reason Houston is where it is. And if people didn't love Mexican food as much as they did, they wouldn't have loved my cooking as much as they did. I mean, it was almost when I first opened Indica, I feel like the Indians complained about the spiciness more than the Americans did. I'm like, what's the matter with you guys, But they just took to it. There was very few people that complained about, oh, it's too spicy, and my food isn't that hot. It's definitely got a lot of spice nuances. So I think the diversity in the city is one of the biggest things that makes it special. And the weather, I love the weather. For all the Houston weather haters, I love this weather out there. No complaints. It's just like New Delhi. So it is. So
I love it. What do you think, Chris?
Diversity.
Yeah.
I mean, we take it for granted because we see it every day. And if you're willing to open your eyes and go out and find those things, then that is the game changer. It's fun when I have friends come in from out of town and show them around, and they're just like, holy, whoa, and it's like, man, you have this in your city too. You just have to branch out and find it.
yeah, true.
Don't be afraid to go searching. Like, it's easy. Like, don't eat at the same places every day. Like, find new things. Like, stop in places that you haven't been. And there's so many restaurants in this city to go to. And it's hard to become, I think it's hard to become a regular at some place. Like, I know we all do it, but like, trying new things all the time is where it's at.
So how do you feel the Houston food scene's evolved over the last couple years, especially? I feel like there's a new restaurant opening probably every week.
I haven't been out very much, so you answer that one.
I think it's amazing. You start to see younger folks coming up and doing their own thing and sharing their voice. And Houstonians are very supportive to that. And you just got to use that hidden tool that I was talking about a little ago, and then people will continue to do that. And that's what's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me personally, when I come from Austin to Houston, I get really excited because there's just so much to check out and eat at, even the old places and the new places. So it's definitely thriving at hyperspeed these days. So going to the causes that y'all support, I mean, there's so many of them now. So what causes do you choose to support and why?
Okay, so for me, two of the biggest causes are environment and women. So environment, because I think we are heading to disaster and not a lot of people seem to care. And I ran an experiment last week. I 4 nights I did a tasting menu. And Pondicheri isn't the tasting menu kind of place. But I'm just going to play with an idea here. So I did it, and I told my servers to tell people that it's going to be a menu with mostly vegetables. I didn't tell them there was not going to be any meat. There was going to be some meat. And I put what I would consider less than 3 ounces, 2 to 3 ounces of meat on that entire menu. And I had like these big Texan guys eating these, and we had a huge response to that. And I feel like people don't know how to eat vegetables, so they just eat meat, and it's so easy. I mean, I can take a great piece of meat, slap some spices on there, some ghee, man, it's damn good. Easy, right? But
yeah.
I just want to challenge myself that what can I do with food that's, also, I mean, I'm at the point in my life where I feel like every single food I put in my mouth has to have value. Like, I'm not going to just eat it because it tastes good, because I'm going to pay later. So I want to create food that really tastes, and if it doesn't taste good, I'm not going to eat it. Like, when people talk about pita I'm like, I want to eat a bunch of fries, or I want to eat a steak right then. So I'm not, like, I feel like there's the right balance to go to, where you say, okay, I'm going to eat meat, I'm going to serve it, but I'm going to serve really well sourced, well prepared, small portions. Because when I was growing up in India, we had meat like once a week. It was such a big deal. Like,
right.
You look forward to it. It's special. It isn't like you eat meat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I've taken my menu down from 9 years now, we've been open 8 years. I think we had 30% of our menu was not meat. Now about 45% of our menu is meat. So I'm slowly edging towards like a 30% of meat on my menu. But it'll be there. It'll just be in very special places, and you really, like, it really counts. And the other thing is women. I feel like, you know, if you support women, you support families, you support children, you support communities. And you know, I come from a country where they're still burning brides. So I have to think back about where I can give back. So those are my two big causes.
For me, it's Southern Smoke. I
Yeah.
mean, that's.
Let's talk about that. What made you decide to start your own charity?
I think in the restaurant business, you get asked to do stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of blanket like ask letters I get from people I have never met is
I
insane.
find that so strange. It's like, I've never thought of going into a business and saying, can you donate money to me? It's like, why do people do that? I don't understand why the restaurant business gets that.
Because everybody thinks restaurant folks are rolling in the dough.
Money, yeah.
That shit isn't like that.
What
Come on.
dough?
Yeah.
So-
Maybe flour, but like the money ain't there. I'm just telling y'all. But for me, we started a charity. Well, we started this kind of foundation where we were doing culinary scholarships, and the goal was to put kids through culinary school, and we did that. And I found that it was so hard to give that away because it was like work full time, go to school full time, give me 2 letters from your chefs. Pretty simple. 2.5 years it took to do that. And they kept asking, like, can you drop the requirements down? I was like, no. That's what you're going to do for a living when you get out of school. Anyway, but then a friend of mine came to me. He was Antonio Gianola, who was our guest som for all those dinners, asked me if we could do one for MS. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, because I was diagnosed with MS this week. And it took me back for a second. And it was like, yes, but we're not going to do a dinner for 100 people and donate $5,000. Like that doesn't make a difference. And so through the first Southern Smoke Festival, a bunch of cooks and restaurant folks just throwing a thing in the backyard, and it turned into this. Without the mayor's department of special events, we went to her and asked her how to block off the sidewalks, and she was like, oh, no. We're blocking off the streets. We're giving you our stage. We're going to give you the lighting. We're going to give you this company that's doing all. And it was like, what just happened? And so it turned in from a backyard barbecue to a full-on street closure festival. And the first year we did really well. I told the MS Society we're going to donate $100,000, and they legitimately, actually Lindsay was like, do not say that, but I did. And they laughed at us because like a month out I was like, maybe we should tell them we're doing this. And they kind of laughed, but the same people stood there and cried when we donated them. We gave them back $180,000 that year. And then we moved on to year 2, and then year 3 happened, and Harvey kind of kicked us all in the ass. And I stood in the dining room, and I looked at Lindsay. I was like, we were a month out, 2 months out from the festival, and I was like, we have to figure out how to take care of our own workforce. We need to figure out how to, MS is a great foundation, but we need to right now focus on our staffs and people in the industry, because there's so many funds out there, but the people that are working in the drive-thrus and the farmers and the people that stock the milk or stock wine or sell wine or wash dishes or whatever, it didn't matter. Like, those are the people that are not going to ever see $1 from the mayor's funds and the big funds and so we needed to take care of those people, and so that was our goal. We found that Legacy Community Health next door to us helped us to be able to go through a philosophy or go through a filing thing where they would do application process and then a verification process, and then we ended up 139 families for $500,000. And so we just continued that. And now we split it between MS and we split it between Southern Smoke, but it became emergency, like a hospitality relief fund is really where we're at now, and making sure that our city workforce and the people, just the hospitality workforce in general, is taken care of. Whether it's a dark night or they trip and twist their ankle, and having to make the decision to go to the doctor or pay your rent is really shitty. Sorry. So that's what that's there for.
How How much total have you given away since you guys started it?
1.4 million
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
in 4 years. So
It's amazing. Well, we should talk later because I need some notes from you on that. So the next one's going to be in October. Is that right?
yeah, October 6th.
Awesome. That's wonderful. So you guys kind of alluded to this. So essentially, I'm sure you get asked to do events outside of Houston. So what motivates you to say yes to some and not to others?
I mean, for me, it depends what the cause is. Is it worth my taking the time to go and do it? Do I like the organization to the point where I know what they're doing? So I don't get asked to leave town as much, and I'm not a big proponent of doing stuff long distance. So it's too complicated. So
Well, thank you for doing ours.
yeah. That was fun.
You, Chef?
That was fun.
What about you?
I get asked to do a lot of events,
Yeah, you
and and people don't like to hear the word no, but we say it quite a bit. I'm not big on for-profit events, and I want to make sure that if we're doing these events, that it's for a friend that has a specific goal in mind, that's a charity or something that makes sense to them, that they're truly believing in. Because going halfway around the country doesn't really promote your business that much.
Right.
So it has to be done well, and that's the goal. Is if a friend asks, and I understand what they're doing, then I'm going to do it.
Where do you draw the line? Like is it just strictly like these kind of a formula?
Is it feasible? Is
Yeah.
it doable? Do I have time? Can we make it? So yeah.
And do you guys budget for community giving? Like, is that something like a line item on your budget every year? That's like what you'll do?
I mean, we do a lot of donations. I mean, at Pondicheri, we have a community breakfast that the first Saturday of every month, we give away 50% of our sales for breakfast.
Awesome.
So I started that in 2000. I haven't given away a large portion of money, but to me, what's more important than how much money I give is what is the impact that money is having. Like what other organizations. There's an organization in Chennai, India that we gave to 2 years ago, where there's women that get burned by their families that arrive in these shelters, and this charity takes these women and finds them work to do, and they've gone back into the community and done so many amazing things. So I just find the organizations where I feel like my money will have the most bang for the buck. Yeah, as opposed to, as far as money in America goes, I feel like it can feel like water sometimes. I lost my husband to cancer last year. He struggled for 2 years. He had a 2-year battle with cancer. The medical costs for one person, and with all the chemo and the hospital visits and all of that, was little under $500,000. And had we not had insurance, we'd be wiped out. But the point is that with all that money, they still couldn't save him.
Right.
So what good is all that money? I feel like the medical system in the US needs so much examination about what is it really giving you, and I've become so cautious about what I take from it. So it's just a very strange world once you enter that pipeline of seeing doctor after doctor after doctor, and it just never ends, especially with cancer. Like, the statistics are that every other man is going to have cancer in the US, and every third woman is going to have cancer. So how do you get out of that? And I think that as a chef, I feel the responsibility that, I want to lead the way to show a better way to eat, because a better way to eat is a better way to be, and a better way to be is a better way to end up, and you don't end up at the doctor's office then. So
Yeah. Wow. Well,
that was a long answer to your question.
well, let's talk a little bit about the Houston food scene as a whole. What do you think is going to happen next? What do you see it going? What direction is it going to take?
I live in my bubble, so I don't know. Honestly, I'd love to see more menus with vegetables on it.
Yeah.
I really would. I'd love to see more plant-based food in the city. I just love to see more exciting food. Like, to me, I just want to see food that excites me, and what excites me is creative uses of ingredients that, like I said, give me value. Like, okay, I ate this, I feel good. Like, and I feel like I think the key to me is that when I cook for you, I want you to feel good the next morning.
Right.
Yeah, it should taste good. It should be a great night. All the fun should be there, but you should feel damn good in the morning, and then I feel I've done my job. So I'd love to see more of that.
I have no clue.
Well, supporting the local food scene, yeah. Supporting local.
That should be a
farmers
given, right?
Yeah.
You need
But it's
to take.
not.
No, it's not. But like, sourcing is huge,
Yeah.
you know, and that's, I mean, you can get on a soapbox for hours about that. I mean, just like getting fish from our waters is hard, like, and we're right next to the damn water, like.
Right.
So, I mean, the same, you know, do I necessarily need to see strawberries on a menu right now? No. I mean, find one. Like, are they growing around here? No. But that's a whole other soapbox. Like, I can talk for hours on that. You know.
What
don't
about
really want
food
that.
waste? Is food waste a big thing here in Houston? Are people talking about that?
I mean, I don't think so. No. The local farmers market to me is, and I write a column for the Chronicle, and I've tried to promote farmers on there about, especially the farmers that I feel have really fought the battle of having a farmers market. And I know Austin, I feel, is kind of ahead of that game, of our game, even though it's a smaller city. But our market is getting better, and I've made the resolution that when I cook at home, everything I buy comes from that market. And I don't cook at home a whole lot, but I do make at least one meal a day for myself at home. Sometimes it's two. And I always buy everything. And so it's the same thing. If it's not at the market, it's not. And also at the market, where are you buying it? Are those people truly selling you stuff that is local? Are they just, you know, it's about really asking all the questions, because there are some hard questions to ask about where's your food really coming from.
What is this, Urban Harvest or?
Yeah, Urban Harvest, yeah. And then there's a rice market on Tuesdays.
Oh, rice. Oh,
Yeah.
Cool.
Rice has its own market on Tuesdays. So yeah.
Yeah. So when I know there's probably a lot of restaurateurs here in the audience. What advice do you have to give them regarding approaching community giving? Like what to look at, what questions to ask, etc. Community giving, like what kind of advice would you give?
Don't just say yes to everything.
Right.
It's
Say
hard
no
to make it-
mostly everything.
And I see a lot of people that will just say yes, 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 and it's like you think that you're making a difference, and you can do that all day long. Like if I did a charity event, I could do one 4 times a week, every week of the year. But it's focusing on one thing that you're very powerful and passionate about, and standing on that soapbox and spreading that word,
Right.
and really getting people to understand. Like, again, asked all the time, but what really matters to you, and find that and stick to it, and really when you're doing events, that's where that money should go.
I agree. You know, when I first started the community breakfast, it was in 2011. I had just opened Pondicheri, and my son was turning 21. And I'm like, I want to do something special for his birthday. He was off in college. He didn't even care to call me or barely answered my phone on his birthday, but I wanted to do something to remember that year. So, and I was like, what should I do? And I've always been like, I just do stuff and I kind of figure out how to swim later. So I'm like, I'm going to do community breakfast, and our breakfast business was not great in the beginning. People were like, Indian breakfast, what is that? No bacon, not coming. So I'm like, okay, let me just do a breakfast at the restaurant and announce that we are going to donate half the money. So we did that. The first one we did, and people were like, what? And then the second one, we had a line out the door for like 4 hours straight.
That's awesome.
And that's what took off our breakfast. And when I had to decide where to give it to, the first people I thought was, Planned Parenthood, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it to the women. And then I started getting death threats, and I had Bibles dropped off at my door saying I was, killing babies. And I was like, oh my God, this is getting off. But what was interesting about that is that, I didn't even realize that when you say you're going to donate money, you're supposed to donate your proceeds and not your sales. And I'm like, to my accountant, he's like, why are you donating all your sales? I'm like, because that's what I said I was going to do. And I've been doing that every month since then. But to me, it was, it was a way to remember my son's birthday. It was a way to give back to something that mattered. And I think I thought about it in a very shallow way at the time. But then it kind of every month was like, who are we going to give to? And then we picked 3 charities a month, and we give 4 months to each charity. And, that's how we rotate through them. So
I think a lot of things too is to ask the question when you're doing these events, what percentage is going back to the charity?
Yeah.
exactly.
Because
yes.
if someone's doing a giant event and like 5% goes back, why do it?
Yeah.
Like that's nothing.
Yeah, totally.
So-
Yeah, that's a really important question.
Because everybody wants to throw, hey, we're going to give the proceeds to charity, and then it's like, boop.
Yeah.
But we put boop here,
Yeah.
and it's like, man, that math doesn't work out. So
Yeah.
Well, I know for us, as a nonprofit who asks chefs to attend our events on a regular basis and participate, more and more than ever, we try to show them, like, here's the impact. We invite them to our grant awards. We try to keep them up to date that, your participation helped us benefit in this way, whether it's our educational programming. So we recognize that because a lot of chefs, I can't even imagine how many asks you guys get every day. So, but yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the culinary community as a whole. So what do you think our industry is doing well, and what do you think we should improve on?
being nice,
Yeah.
like that's where we all have to be at this point.
Gone is the
Right.
chef that yells at his employees all the
I
time.
used to be an asshole. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I had my moments, but then it's like that person takes that home. I may forget it within like 7 minutes and be like, "Hey, man, you good? Yeah, okay." But it took me to sit back and realize as a young cook when that happened to me, what it meant to me, and how I held that deep
Stress.
inside.
Yeah.
And that's not a safe place. And so it's easier to just be like, "Hey, man, don't do that again." And they're like, "Okay, heard." Disappointment works much better than anger. And even the disappointment thing, it doesn't have to go that far, right? It's like, with respect, you did it this way. Maybe you should try doing it this way the next time, and then this will work better. And I think that's in a hole where we need to be.
What caused you to change your perspective in that matter? Like, what made you make that change or that shift?
Seeing someone's face when I blasted them, and I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think that's where being a mom, it hit me sooner. My first year at Indica, I was a tyrant. I mean, I was wanting to kill everybody that did not put the food exactly the way I wanted them to. And by the end of that first year, I was exhausted. I was going home angry, and my kids were like, "Mom, what happened to you?" And my kids were like 11 and 13 at the time, so they really, really reacted to that. It was like, and I realized that I was turning into somebody I didn't like. I didn't like myself. So in that first year, I made a pact with myself that I don't say I don't get angry. I still get angry, but I've learned to moderate that. And I think my thing to my managers and my entire team is I tell people that there's no such thing as managers. You should not be managing yourself. That's what management is about. And treat people like you want to be treated. And I tell people, I said, have you ever heard me yell at somebody across the room? If I've never done that, you cannot do that in this restaurant. It's just not okay. So, and nothing is worth that.
Was that part of it because is Indica your first restaurant?
Yes.
And that probably was part of it too.
Yeah, I
was
mean,
that
I
you
came
wanted
from
to
cafe
be-
and I came from a culture of testosterone-filled boys' kitchen.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's all I had seen, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. Then I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. That's not fun. It's not cool. So, yeah.
But it starts with us. Like, I don't allow it in the restaurants either. Like, my management staff, no.
Yeah.
So what do you foresee as a potential issue for our industry in the future? What do you think is going to be next? Because we've had the Me Too movement. Now we have the mental illness, healthcare issue.
Environment. I mean, restaurants need to think about the environment. California is like miles ahead of where we are. New York is ahead of where we are, of course, but California is like way ahead. And Texas, we are like in the backwaters. We don't seem to just care. And to me, that's an issue that as restaurateurs, we should, because our kids and our grandkids are going to suffer if we don't think. And we should be thinking about that. And in the end, to me, the reason to think about that is not just because I know that when I eat well, I feel better. And in the end, I just want to feel good. I don't want to just, have this like mouth orgasm and go home and kind of wake up in the morning and have another like round of like, I think that's fine in my 20s, but I'm past that. Like I don't want to drink till I'm into a stupor. I tried to get drunk once and I'm like, I don't know how to get drunk, guys. Like, come on. I even took my staff, let's all get drunk together. And they're like, you are terrible. Like, you just don't know how to get drunk. And I'm like, I feel really okay. I just want to go home and sleep now. I just got really sleepy and quiet. And they're like, you're so boring. So I just don't see the joy in that. And I just try to encourage our team that, I've done so many yoga and meditation sessions at the restaurant and like 3 people show up and I've paid people to come and be there. I've invited like people that will just talk to my team, and it just takes, I feel like everybody arrives at the right place in their life and their own way, and you can't force it. But if you do that, then they watch you, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Led by
my team
example.
watches me with everything I do. So I make sure that I set the right example. So, and I'm not perfect. I do things that I regret all the time. So
Oh, we all
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
yeah.
You, Chef? What do you think is going to be a potential issue in the future?
I think there's many things,
Yeah.
right? I think there's many things that we all need to work on. Environment, yes. Sourcing, yes. Maintaining the food chain better, yes. But for us, again, it goes back to the staff issues. We're actually, which is really nice, pretty close to having a 24-hour manned hotline. For people right now, we can provide assistance and pay for people to go talk to people, but we're getting ready to have it funded to where we'll have a 24-hour hotline for
Is this
anybody
through
in the
Southern
industry.
Smoke? Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's, for us, kind of the next step in the groundbreaking aspect of things is that at 4 o'clock in the morning, if an individual has an issue, they can call and talk to somebody, which is great.
Do you foresee Southern Smoke growing outside of Houston with impact?
We have that conversation all the time, and we do take care of people outside of the city, for sure, outside of our area. But I think that we talk about not putting the cart in front of the horse
Yeah.
so much, and making sure that our area is solid. But, you know, I have chef friends that are like, hey, how do we do this in our city? Well, can we come do a Southern Smoke here? Well, okay, let's do that, and then let's have the money that's earmarked for your area. But, you know, North Carolina, when they got hit with, you know, hurricane, yeah, we sent money out there to Nebraska for, you know, to help people in times. But for the most part, I want to keep it in our city or in our area more than just our city, because when you talk about the city, you're also talking about all the farmers that are in the outlying areas and smaller restaurants and just whoever. I don't really I don't care. Like as long as our people are taken care of. And so, but eventually I would like to take it to that next level. But I think the one thing that we have set up right now, and when chefs ask like, how do I get this in Nashville? Well, I don't know your doctors. Like I don't have, like here we have Legacy that kind of helps out. We have other people that we've brought on board to help. And I don't really know who those people are in your cities. And I was like, your guests are already there. Like your guests are the ones that are a part of this program. And it's just talking to them.
Well, before I open it up to Q&A, I have one more question for y'all. When you think about your legacy, what motivates you and what impact do you want to leave behind?
I mean, my legacy is going to be my food, and I have a gift with food and, you know, ideas, so I'm constantly putting ideas about, I feel like just showing people how to cook in a better way, you know, how to eat in a better way. And yeah, I mean, if they can just make one thing, or people cook something that I cooked 10 years after I'm dead, I'll be happy. So I'm not looking for anything big, so.
Again, there's a lot of different things, but I think if we can get people to step outside of their own box and go understand other people, and start to learn the diversity that's around you, not just in Houston, but anywhere. I think the day that my mom, when I said, what do you want for Mother's Day? Where do you want to go eat? And it wasn't Brennan's. It was like, I want to go eat Korean barbecue. I was like, yeah, we did something right. And that's like the goal, is like across the country and understanding where we're at in a society and understanding to sit and to listen, not just to talk all the time, but to listen and absorb and be able to share those stories over food with someone that you don't know. I think society in our world will be a better place. And that's everybody being able to hang out and talk, no matter what it is. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great answer. Well, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Chris, I was wondering whether talk to other chefs around here. I've always wondered why, especially in Texas.
There you go.
Thank you. I've been a chef for a long time, and I grew up in Texas. And as a kid, I saw the way we grew local vegetables and essentially go down over that time period, whether you're talking about meat or talking about local vegetables. And I spent a lot of time looking at the local growers. Many times I've thought the only way we're ever going to increase the amount of local produce is to find a way where chefs and institutions band together and actually make contracts with local agricultural groups or farmers or something and increase that. And I think that's one reason why we don't have a whole lot of local sources, is because I don't think there's enough farmers growing stuff. So
I think that there are the amount of farmers and growers, right? It's committing to them. I mean, Underbelly was solely survived on local products and farmers delivering, but it was committing to buying from them no matter what. Has anybody ever said, yeah, you got 1,500 ears of corn that you need to move? Bring it on by. Do you know what that looks like? Holy jeez. But it's like committing to finding a way for those products and committing to those farmers and asking them for more, right? It's like sourcing locally isn't just like, oh, I got 6 pounds of figs this week. That isn't it. It's all the time.
Yeah.
And my staff has to deal with what I've started with them. Like when farmers just show up and they're like, here's your stuff, here's your stuff, here's your stuff, here's your stuff. And they're like, holy shit, what do I do with all these peppers? You make it work. Mm-hmm. You make your menu work for that. And it's even when it comes to beef and using like we use solely pretty much 44 farms on everything. But because we've committed to them, we have access to that stuff, right? And it's committing to the farmer, and eventually they're going to ask you, what do you want me to grow for you? Oh, okay. Forever it was like, whatever you want. You know what you're best at growing. I'll figure out what to do with it. And so it's hard. It is, and you have to teach your clients and your guests to be more flexible. Like I said, you're not going to get strawberry shortcake right now. My bad. Come back in February. That's how it works. And so, like, it's committing to the farmers, and then you can commit to your menu. If that makes sense? Because once you give them enough reason to grow and bring and supply, then other chefs will get on board too, because then they're going to grow more than you can take, and they're going to start branching out, but it's the branching out, and those other folks have to do it too. So if it's not so much the farmer, it's more the chef, and it's more the restaurant. Because if we can all buy, then they're going to grow more. They want to, they can, but if they don't have a place for it on Tuesday when they got to move tomatoes because you're like, nah, I'm good, I don't need tomatoes right now, that shit doesn't work. So it's on us, not on them.
But I think what you're trying to also ask is that how do the farmers all bring all the stuff to us? Mm-hmm. And sometimes what I find personally is the logistics. It's like I'll get a text in the morning saying, I have 2 sacks of this. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. But I figure out what I'm going to do with it. But I feel like if farmers actually banded together and were more organized and came up with, like there's a website called Farm to Table that we use and we order from that. So that's one. But I feel like if everybody got onto that, or they didn't just tell us that I'm just going to go directly with you, then we would have a weekly plan what to order. So I feel like farmers need to think of it as a business more and less as I'm just going to go hand it to Anita at the back of the truck and I'm going to show her this. And I love that, but I'm not always here. I get a text when I'm in India, New York, or somewhere else, and I'm still responding to their text saying, okay, and I'm calling the restaurant saying, so-and-so's coming, because they all have my cell number. And I refuse to let go of that because I want them to have access to me. Mm-hmm. But I feel like, farmers need to think of this as, okay, how do we make it easy? Because most chefs are running around with their head cut off all day long. I don't know about you, Chris, but it's like we're always trying to do too many things in a day. So if the farmers could come together in a way where you say, okay, we are a team around Houston, but that's hard. So
yeah, I would almost bet that one of the texts that just happened in my pocket is one of those farmers telling me they have something. And that's a day-to-day.
All the chefs that you know in town and all that, have you banded together and say, we're going to share all this growth And instead of him doing 100 acres, he does 500 acres. And then we
No.
share all
No,
that product.
I don't think. I mean, I know that we use the same farmers,
Yeah.
and so, like, because I see the car pull up with the coolers, and they're like, "Oh no, that's for
Yeah.
Anita," and I'm like, "Okay, cool, that's rock on." I don't want to look at it. I don't even want to know what she's getting because then I'm gonna be like, "Well, I want that too," you know. But like,
Yeah, I mean, I think.
but they're like, no, don't look at that. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I won't. My bad. Because, but it's I'm not gonna force somebody to do that,
Yeah,
right? Because
agreed.
it is a commitment. Like, it's a huge commitment to source locally. It is, and it's not easy. But I don't, because your costs go up. You know, it's everything, right? But that's fine. You just got to dictate that in your menu.
But
I
the
mean, if
product
you have the
is so
same
much
thing that's on the
better,
menu for
so,
25 bucks for
yeah.
5 years, like
Yeah.
maybe it's 27 now. Guests don't really give a shit. I mean, they don't. At the end of the day, like, they're coming to your place to spend money, and like, if it's 25 or 27, it's fine. But you have to make sure that, one, I don't haggle with farmers,
No.
and that's
Never.
there's no haggling. Like, if it's $4, it's $4. Like,
Yeah.
cool. Sometimes they come in, they're like $4. I'm like, you should be charging me $4.50 because that's beautiful, you know. And like, I'm gonna make my money on it because I'm gonna adjust accordingly to it. So.
I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen and communication between the two. I think having farmers have a better understanding of what you guys do with the produce that you guys get, I think also helps them to be kind of thinking outside the box as far as who they need to be reaching out to, or if they do have extras, like knowing the person they can go to and say, hey, I have extra product. Would you like it? Or
Yeah, I tell them all the time, go see this person, go see this person, go see this person. And I just like, how are they how are they treated when they show up at the door?
right.
You know, how like, are they like, because we get it all the time, and there's certain companies I'm just like, you know, I don't know, whatever. Like, I don't commit to all of them.
Yeah.
And you can't.
You can't. Are you guys transferring that knowledge to your staff? Like, are you?
Yes.
Like, how are they learning from you all to be
They
able
just
to?
know to say yes. If I'm not there, they earn and they'll text me and say, I have 20 pounds of this, what do I do? And I'll send a recipe.
Yeah.
Say, do this, and put it in a jar and sell it, or this is the special you're going to make. So, yeah.
Do you find that your staff is more impassionate to support the farmers as well, just like you?
I mean, some just don't seem to care. That's a very personal thing. I get super excited, so, yeah.
Our guys do. They do.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, like, Preserve is the smallest restaurant. And so he has a hard time taking, like, Nick has a really hard time taking, like, a case of something.
Right.
Because we don't have a whole lot. He's got to order all the time. And so finally, I took him right by the Manil. There's a little farm that's a Planet Forward farm.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's go talk to this guy because this needs to be your farmer.
right.
Whatever. You guys need to work together to supply the restaurant. And then
Right.
you change your menu accordingly to what he's growing.
And you don't provide any feedback as far as what they should grow for you guys too, or it's just strictly from like farm to y'all?
After like 2 years, then I'll start to like, hey, maybe can you grow
I'm
this?
telling them what to grow all the time. I've
Yeah.
got all these Indian vegetables. I'm like, come on, grow this.
Yeah.
And I'll show people how to cook them. So, yeah, I am.
That's good. That's good. Questions? Yeah.
Chris, this is for you. You opened 1/5, and one of the concepts was Mediterranean, so you reached out halfway across the world to bring flavors to Houston. But now, with the ending of that, you've announced that you're flipping back and coming home, Southern seafood, Southern Houston, the South. Can you give us maybe a little sneak preview of what we can expect?
Nope. Hey, I held off like 3 months before I even told you what we were doing. So, you know, we're working on things every day, you know, and it's like this actually gives us the ability to not have to just, like, we can take all the product we possibly can now. So product will dictate menu. And so even more so now. Yeah, but it's sourcing, you know, seafood a little easier and like working with, you know, our port guys and like just it's sourcing now. So yeah.
Obviously, both you guys are chef restaurateurs, and Chris, you said a little earlier that there is no front of house and back of house. It's just one house. Do you have any clever strategies to try to get the pay disparity closer? You know, obviously Danny Meyer in New York tried to ban tipping and things like that. Do you guys do anything progressive to try to make sure the back of house is treated as well as the front of house?
Pay people well. I mean,
we
that's
do our best to pay. I mean, New York is $15 minimum wage, so that's something that I'm dealing with in New York. But in Houston, we pay people the best we can, and a lot of it is close to that, so because we are certainly not starting people at $7. I don't know, whatever the minimum wage is. The last time I paid someone that. I mean, I wish we could do more. I think that's going to come back to people being willing to pay more money for good food and not wanting cheap food, or just expecting, especially in my case, and viewing ethnic food as being cheap, because it's like, why does it have to be cheap? It's good food. It should cost money. And in the U.S., we spend a lot less on our food than they do in Europe, where they eat a whole lot better than we do, and they spend a lot of money on their food, and they're okay with that. So.
I know it's kind of a bullshit thing, but like it's not. And as a cook, this is how I grew up, right? I knew what I was getting into. I didn't know, pay was always one of those things, but it was more than money. It's respect, and it's knowledge and learning and product that you get to work with. And I think that's what keeps a lot of our staff around, is that, one, I'm almost always there, but it's also that they get to work with stuff they don't get to do. And so I never want one of our back of the house employees to go on a lateral move someplace else. We want to train them to be better, and we make sure that they know these things. Like, all right, everybody's breaking down fish today. Let's go. And they're like, what? I got my station to set up. I'm like, yeah, no, cool. Stop what you're doing. 15 minutes. Let's break down fish. Like, and okay. Or, that's part of their station setup or whatever. It's monetarily is the end goal, but knowledge is payment as well. Because I think, like, pooling tips with cooks and things like that's really hard. It's a very slippery slope to get into.
I've tried that. It doesn't work.
It doesn't
work.
And so
it's a disaster.
It's you pay your cooks the best you can,
Right.
and pay them with growth and knowledge as well.
Exactly.
And like walk by their station and be like, hey, let me show you this. Like, you see what you're doing? Now try it this way. And once you get the cooks to instill, like, don't just half-ass things. Use that secret tool we talked about earlier, and care. So you only have to do it once, right? And every time you do it perfectly. And that's more payment than you can ever give.
I always tell my cooks that I never cook the same thing twice, ever. Everything I cook it a little differently each time. And no matter, I don't have like favorite recipes or things I go back to. I just cook. But when I cook, I'm always thinking about how I can make it better. So even the recipes that we use at the restaurant, my brain's constantly going like, and I always tell them, I'm like, if you can think of a way to make it better, tell me, let's try. So we discuss all the time. We go into like details, like ridiculous details, and I can talk food with them like all day long. So that's my favorite part.
Yeah, when you sear a steak, the next steak should be better, and the next steak should be better, and the
Yes.
next steak should be better, and
Always
on
get
and on
better.
and on and on.
Yeah.
When you cook a piece of fish, that's how it should be. We teach our cooks like what it takes for a carrot to show up at our restaurant. They have the conversations with the farmers. They talk about it. We talk about it so that there's minimal utilization of overcooking and waste. And that's huge to me, I think.
Are y'all having health insurance conversations right now in your restaurants or in your executive staff? Health insurance?
We offer
Healthcare?
insurance to all of our staff.
We do
awesome.
too, but
That's great.
not everybody wants to do it. That's the problem. Yeah. Yeah.
We take it. I mean, it's a huge financial crutch or a huge financial like impact on us, but it's making sure. I mean, we have 210 employees now in the company, and so making sure that we offer health insurance to everybody is very beneficial to us.
The reason why they are not wanting it is it because they have to. There's some buy-in for them too.
Yeah.
There is buy-in.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's
it's really not much. It's like $80 a month, and then I take on the rest,
Wow.
and so it's like $80 is $80. Like, so
Yeah. Any
I
more
think that's the
questions?
number. Don't quote me on
Oh,
that.
there you go.
Well, it's a two-part question. So when I first started cooking and I don't know if Chris remembers, but Anita also. I went to high school with Anita's daughter at Memorial, and she kind of took that plunge and was like, I'm going to open a restaurant, and I thought that was pretty cool when I was a kid because I kind of followed that same route. So I'll come back to that in a second. And then Chris, when I started at Haven, I think he remembers about 13 years ago, I was crying like a sissy that it was a lot to take on and I didn't know what I was going to do. And he pulled me to the side and he's like, dude, at the end of the day, it's just food. You know, what are you going to do? You're going to lose your job and you know that's not going to happen because Randy loves you. So long story short, what advice do you guys have for, I think my biggest pet peeve is seeing in the food industry in Houston especially is there's always a constant like chef shuffle. And it's the same, like, jumping from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant to restaurant. And you see it with the front of the house the most, where they want to go where the money is. But at the same time, it's chefs that don't want to stay somewhere and not necessarily build a name, but put out a consistent product. What made you guys finally say, you know what, I want to do my own thing, and this is what I want, and this is what I'm going to stick to? And at the same time, what advice do you have, kind of like when you pulled me to the side years ago, Chris? What advice do you have for people that want to take the leap and maybe open their own place or just stay at a place and put out a consistent product?
I mean, when I got into the business, I was not part of the chef culture. I worked at Cafe Eddie and that was it. One place and I opened my own place. So I didn't go through what most people do. But I do think that there is this desire. I mean, I've had a lot of, young chef, mostly boys, go through my kitchen wanting to like come in. I said, look, if you can make what I can make better, I will hand it over to you. But learn how to do the basics first. But they just want to jump to the glory so fast. It's like they don't want to pay the dues or they don't want to really work hard to learn. Indian food isn't easy to learn. There's a lot of nuances to how to use spices. There's like 25 spices and everyone has a different way in which I use it. So it takes time to learn that. And I find that there's not as many people willing to learn with the depth that I wish they would. They just want the fast track, and there is no fast track. I mean, I cook for a long time to be able to cook as well as I can now, and it didn't just come out of nowhere. I didn't just suddenly one day get up and become a good cook. I made a lot of bad food to get a lot of really good food. So people have to, it's more humility and stay with what you're doing, because I think there is so much to be learned from, and it's so easy to judge, so easy to judge Chris because he's got 3 restaurants, he's doing so great, to come and tell him how to do his job. People feel that they can do that, and I find that almost laughable. But so yeah, more humility, more hard work, nose to the grind, and just work, and then learn and do what you want to do,
Yeah, it's commitment. And I think that we all need to have a sense of commitment and loyalty and honor, and like, we talk, and it's something that we say at the restaurants all the time. It's being a student of the craft, and always learning, always. Like, you have to keep pushing yourself. I mean, I do it all the time. Like, books come out, I buy them, I read them. Let's go. I try to instill that with them, and like for us, did I want to open 4 restaurants? Not really. I mean, yeah, because I have something to say, but because of our staff. Our staff is there, and they need a place to grow to. And if we didn't have the front of the house in the pipeline, and we didn't have the back of the house in the pipeline, I wouldn't do it. So it's having people to put in these places and giving them the opportunity to grow. I see it all the time. People chasing the money and people chasing the fame, and like I always tell them, before you go, let's have this conversation. Like, you're going to tell me, but let's have this conversation and let me work through it with you the whole way. And that's kind of the thing, is like, I want to be there to help and help your decision, because there's so many people that have like told me they're going to do something. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk through this. And this is what's going to happen, because you're telling me the scenarios that are there, and you can see this and you think you're going to change it. And then in like 8 months, they're back. And I'm like, that's cool. Welcome back home. But did you learn something from that, and how do you not make that mistake again? And right now, everybody wants to open a restaurant, and it's really,
there's too many restaurants.
You can't do it. Like, and it goes back to like the smartest, and there's people in this room that will probably yell at me about this.
But real estate, you have to be smart with that. There's people all the time trying to get me to do things. I'm like, you're too damn expensive. Like you just want things for cheap. I'm like, yeah, that's the only way things become sustainable. Because I think a lot of young chefs go out and they sign leases on things, and then they don't really look at it's not affordable, and then it ends up closing because they can't sustain that life. Right? So, because again, the dough is what you're rolling. You're not rolling in it. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, chefs. And
Yeah,
thank
you want to talk later?
Well, thank you, TRA, for having this relevant discussion. I think there's a lot to discuss. I mean, there's so many things that our community faces every day and decisions that have to be made. And we're done, but before we part, I wanted to share, Chris is coming out with a book in September, Cook Like a Local, Flavors That Will Change the Way You Cook and See the World, September
3rd.
Awesome. And then Chef Jaisinghani, she's releasing a bunch of spices, and right now you're selling it just at the restaurant and online.
Yeah.
And then you're hoping to have it on
More
the store
products,
shelves.
yeah.
That's really amazing. Well, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate y'all being here, and I want to thank the chefs. So if you can give me a round of applause for them, that would be great.
Thank you all.